Proof, if you needed it, that some teachers are geniuses with a plethora of tools at their disposal just to get you to study. Sometimes, though, it's just as simple as referencing a popular movie. Teachers are people too, you know, as are your parents. I know this may come as some kind of shock, but that's why you'll occasionally see them referencing celebrities as potential targets for their frustrations. It's pretty cool, but I guess it's also pretty dark. Teachers love to dress up for Halloween just as much as you do. I thought we'd cover this. Teachers are people. They also throw the best parties, but you'll never find out about that. Still, you will get to enjoy them coming to work in their cool outfits from time to time. Ever feel like your teacher is mocking you? If your teacher's issuing assignments which specifically reference the smell coming from your dorm room, then it might be time to get the mop out. Some teachers are frustrated writers or failed sports people, but some maths teachers are in fact failed art teachers. This guy should definitely put down his graph paper and calculator and take out an easel. If you're trying to be clever, then you better make sure that you know exactly how to accurately represent a ninja. This teacher is quite right. Ninjas always go unseen. There could be one anywhere, right now, like right outside of your window. Now, this teacher knows a good way to raise funds for charity. For every dollar that the kids gave him, they got a piece of duct tape to keep him stuck to the wall. Hopefully, they let him down eventually, at some point. Everybody has fallen asleep in class before at some point. Usually, you're just rudely awoken by an elbow in the ribs from your friend, or worse, the teacher shouting in your face or just making fun of you. This teacher has a more ingenious way of making kids feel bad for falling asleep in his class. Teachers are very important people, sometimes, often with incredibly busy lives that the kids don't have a clue about. This guy's so busy that he forgot his mobile phone. Sometimes you see something in a textbook and you know that it relates to a film or a TV show that you've seen, but you can't wait to raise your hand and mention it in class. But it looks like your teacher's already beaten you to it. Every teacher has a way to embarrass those kids who turn up without the proper equipment. Do it in your pants. This teacher came up with a clever solution for students who turned up without a pencil. Who wants to admit that they love Justin Bieber? Do you like pencils that much? Science teachers are usually the most awesome because they're allowed to play with chemicals and electricity, two of the best things on the planet. Sometimes, for example, they build go-karts and then promise that you can travel in time if you can get it up to 88 miles per hour. It's a lie, but it's cool. Interesting modes of transport aren't just for science teachers though. The University of Nebraska-Lincoln classics professor Tom Winter became an internet sensation when this photo of him riding his skateboard to class went viral. In 1974, Dale Irby, a PE teacher from Richardson, Texas, discovered he'd worn the same outfit in his yearbook photo for 2 years in a row. His wife dared him to do it a third time, 40 years on, and he's still doing it. Remember what I said about science teachers being the coolest? Yeah, chemicals, electricity, all that jazz. This chemistry teacher clearly revels in showing his students the exciting side of science. Let's just hope that they didn't try it at home. Most college students know all too well that it can be hard to make sure that you're up in time for class. Luckily, some professors are perfectly happy to let you cook breakfast while they give their lecture. Sometimes you get the feeling that teachers spend as much time on the internet as you do. Luckily, this makes for some pretty hilarious situations when they need to communicate with the class. There are questions in almost every test which can be interpreted much more simply than they're intended. Trick questions, Thankfully, this student had a cool teacher who took their risky answer and ran with it. For some teachers, it's just a job, Not everyone can be like Robin Williams in the Dead Poets Society after all, and this particular teacher doesn't care if you think you deserved extra credit. He doesn't care at all. The teacher-student relationship is punctuated by excuses. Whether it's a classic dog eating your homework, or something more elaborate, like aliens ate my dog, which had eaten the homework, your teacher's probably on to you. time to come up with something better. Sometimes it's important to show solidarity with students, and these teachers decided to stand shoulder to shoulder with their students to protest the decision to schedule final exams at 7 a.m. Anyone who hasn't seen Titanic probably won't enjoy this, but it is nice to see teachers with a sense of humour. Thankfully, this skeleton probably doesn't have skin, otherwise parents would be very annoyed. You can't win, Darth. I'm sorry. If you strike me down, then my quadratic equations will become more powerful and more difficult than you can possibly imagine. Romance is always a taboo subject between teachers and students for fairly obvious reasons, so suggesting a bad romance is bound to be worrying. Thankfully, this teacher was aiming for the Lady Gaga song, although it's probably still a bit risky, let's be honest. Dr. Jim Peplowski is an associate professor in chemistry at Clarkson University in Potsdam, New York, and is famous for his wacky and wild methods of teaching science. It's safe to say that there is a bit of a waiting list for his amazing classes. Everyone has one teacher that they just didn't get on with, and the chance to call them out after years might be tempting. Just make sure the teacher you choose doesn't have a mean streak. For every teacher who takes their job seriously, there's one that's just in it for the holidays. Most of them don't advertise it, but this teacher just wants his students to know that their grades don't matter all that much to him. Any Pokemon player knows that when one as powerful as a wild equation appears, they've got nowhere to run. Unfortunately for these players, they only had one way to defeat it: solve for X. Most teachers like to take their classes to museums as class field trips. They're secure, contained environments, and you can almost guarantee that students are going to learn something, hopefully. Sometimes they'd rather go though and shoot some guns. What can possibly go wrong? Sometimes the only way you can really teach people is by really annoying them. And this particular teacher who waited until point 15 on this list to reveal their cunning prank. What did the students learn? You should always read all of the instructions thoroughly before you start any test.